Everybody, welcome to our presentation of Ask a Farmer today. And let's face it, guys, we're in the middle of summertime. Farmers are busy; they're up to their eyeballs in everything that they got to do. And so, today's episode, we're not going to be interviewing a farmer. We will have more farmers, more results. I actually look forward to the end of the season for this particular show because by the end of the season, by September, October, when all the farmers have finished their production, their season, their harvest, we're going to have so many farmers that are just singing our praises, giving us results, sharing their results with you. And we're just going to be super ecstatic, to be able to share that with you. So just have one quick little housekeeping note here to do. And all right. There we go. Okay, good. Sorry about that. I always get these calls. Every time I do a presentation, guys, I get calls from farmers. I get all this, ding, 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 ding. It's funny. Maybe I should just do this 24/7. Then I'll just have nothing but farmers calling in. We'll get lots of guys going this year. But in any case, I'm really looking forward to the end of this year in terms of this show, the Ask a Farmer show, because all the farmers that have been working so hard and so tirelessly over the course of the whole year are going to be joining us and giving and sharing their results with you. So you'll be able to see during your off season all the different results we were able to accomplish in 2021. Now, this year's been a very interesting year because last year we had everything all set up. Everything was on the runway. We had 7 different trials. We had trials with the University of Florida, Rodale Institute, some of these other institutes, Vermont Negative, a lot of these different places all through the entire sector and agriculture. We had it all set up. But COVID hit. Everybody said, well, talk to us in the spring, talk to us in March, talk to us in April when we get ready to start our season. That's when we start really looking at what we want to do this year. So we had probably at least 50 or 60 farms all lined up for last year, and we had probably 20 or 30 different research trials as well. As soon as COVID hit in early March, everybody was like, oh my God, we're not doing anything. We're not changing anything. So literally all that research that we had planned and set up just completely went by the boards. Now, a lot of those studies are, of course, going on right now in 2021, but it really delayed everything a year. If we had that, this Ask a Farmer show would have been packed every single week with dozens of people clamoring to be on the spot. But in any case, I wanted to talk to you today about the type of individual you are in terms of how you receive new technology, because at the end of the day, this technology is new. It's a new way of looking at agriculture. It's actually a new way of looking at physiology and biology, not just in agriculture, but also with people as well. When you kind of look at something like COVID or some kind of disease that's out there, and if you want to stick to plants, we can stick to, let's take here in Florida, we got HLB disease, or they call it citrus greening. That disease, this little bacteria disease, that's caused by an insect infestation, has actually wiped out 80% of the overall production of citrus in Florida. Now, obviously, Florida is known as the citrus state, right? The citrus capital. And we have the citrus bowl. We have oranges, we have lemons, we have all these different citrus plants. And imagine we went from, and I can't remember how many, I think it was like 50 or 60 million boxes, now down to down to I think a couple of million. I mean, we're talking dramatic reduction in boxes. We're talking about fields that used to do 600-700 boxes per acre are now doing 50 boxes, 100 boxes, 150 boxes. And we had a grant of $1 million worth of technology. We went out to this industry and we really worked hard to try and help the farmers in this situation. And that type of epidemic in terms of what's happening in the plant world is really, really hard to combat. And so it's really, really interesting, what's been happening over that. So we're working tirelessly to try to help farmers that are in, dire straits, are really in look of any kind of solution. But let's take a look at a solution that's not a chemical. It's not an additive. It's not something you just add to the soil. It's not a fertilizer. It's not a pesticide. And what we've noticed in the last 3 or 4 years and talking to literally thousands at this point of farmers around the country and even in other countries, is the mindset is so completely focused on chemistry and chemicals and soil nutrients. And by all means, this stuff is important. You need to have enough nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, manganese, magnesium. You need to have all these elements in the soil for plants to be able to thrive. But what happens if that plant can't absorb what's already there. What happens if there's already a lot of nitrogen in your soil, but because of various factors, because of the system of the plant, the metabolism of the plant, it can't absorb that nitrogen. Well, what's going to happen to all that money you're spending on fertilizer and soil amendments? Well, what's going to happen is you're going to waste it. It's almost like taking a dollar bill and just burning it, or taking a dollar bill and just throwing it in your ground, and just hoping that translates into a money tree or something like that. It's almost that crazy, but it's something that we've just become so used to it over the last 50 years that we just don't question the fact that why are we adding all this nitrogen to the soil if the plants are only absorbing 20 to 30% of what's there? Why are we adding 5 tons of nitrogen if the plants can only absorb 1 ton of that nitrogen? Where is the other 4 tons of that nitrogen going, do you think? It's going leaching out into the soil and down into the groundwater. It's getting washed away with rainwater. It's evaporating back up into the atmosphere and in forms that are very detrimental to our atmosphere. In fact, greenhouse gases, nitric oxide and other nitrogen-based chemicals that's used in agriculture actually is 100 times worse in terms of greenhouse gas emissions than carbon dioxide. So if you're really focused on driving that Tesla or driving that Prius or driving an energy efficient car, but as a farmer, you're putting a lot of that nitrogen back into the atmosphere, you're actually doing more harm with the nitrogen than you are with driving, let's say, a big Ford F-150 or a F-250, big kind of diesel truck. So we want to help you with that. Now, what we looked at it and what the researchers that developed our technology, Mr. Fulvio Baumelli, discovered is, he really wanted to say, well, how can we actually change the plant itself to make the plant more efficient? How can we get that plant to utilize the nitrogen and phosphorus and potassium and other stuff that's already in the soil? Or if we are going to add soil amendments, how can we make those plants super efficient at utilizing those nutrients so that all of that nutrients and all that money that you're spending on input costs is actually going into your fruit and vegetable production, right? How do we make the plant more efficient? How do we utilize the fact that the plant is able to utilize the sun's energy to translate that into more fruit, more flower production? How can we make that plant super efficient at that? And the reality of the situation was it took 20 years of research. Now, of course, Fulvio Baumelli was not the only person to research radio wave technology and frequency stimulation in terms of plant health. There was actually a number of different other researchers stemming all the way back, believe it or not, to the turn of the 20th century, back to the 1890, 1900. There's actually researchers that have gone and seen the influence of music and other types of sound waves into plant growth. And of course, we all know singing to your plants and that kind of stuff that evolved from that. And then in 2000, since 2000 and to now, in the last 20 years, there's been a lot of research on specific frequency patterns and their effect on specific plant functions like nitrogen absorption or photosynthesis efficiency or carbon dioxide absorption and these things. But the Kemonoxy Plant Booster represents a completely systemic approach where we take a look at the entire metabolism of the plant. And we said, this is a system. This is not just one key component. This is a system that has a lot of little components in it. You have water absorption and utilization, nitrogen absorption and utilization, nitric oxide absorption and utilization, carbon dioxide absorption and utilization, sunlight absorption and utilization during sunlight hours, glucose metabolism, all these different, microbial activity in the soil, nutrient balance in the soil, pH, salinity, all these different factors are all crucial points in the overall metabolic processes of a plant. And if you only focus on one small area, for example, if you're only putting soil amendments in the soil and you're not paying attention to these other factors, then you're really limiting the possible benefits you can get out of this. And with Kemonoxy Plant Booster, what we're seeing is by really taking a systemic approach and improving the entire metabolism of the plant, we're really able to drive fruit and vegetable production to a very high level, and we're able to increase the quality of that production as well. And that's been a truly amazing thing in the last 2 years. What we've seen over 70 or actually over 100 now case studies where we're dramatically increasing production. We're also seeing improvements in insect resistance, in fungus resistance, in disease resistance, and overall fruit quality as well as production. Now, if you guys are a specialty crop grower, I really urge you to give the Kemonoxy Plant Booster a look. You can check out our website at harvestharmonics.com. You can also email me or put some notes in the chat. We would love to work with you one-on-one to get this stuff going. We want to help every farmer we can improve the quality and quantity of their yields. And because we're making that plant super efficient, you're going to be able to reduce your input costs over time. So I don't recommend changing the entire way you farm initially, but just pay attention to your soil test, pay attention to your tissue samples, pay attention to the nutrient density analysis of the fruits and vegetables that you're producing. And you'll see just by those simple measurements that the Kim Manassi Plant Booster is really going to drive improved production, improve quality, and allow you to really reduce your input costs. So imagine if the fertilizer and soil amendments you're using now, if the plants are only capable of using 30% of that, imagine what happens when the plants get super efficient and they can produce the same amount or same quality or even higher quality. And you don't have to you can reduce your input cost by 30, 40, 50, maybe even 60 or 70% over the next 2 or 3 years. And of course, we urge you to continue with good agronomic practices and good agricultural practices and pay attention to the measurements. Because when you use Kim Manassi Plant Booster, we want you to measure these things. We want you to see that these are not just flukes. It's not just for that one crop in that one region in that one farm. We have results across a number of different farms, from South America to America, India, Asia, Australia, all over the place. So if you have questions and comments, please let me know here in the comments as I go, because I want to answer your questions here. Now, some of the common questions we get is, how are radio waves increasing plant metabolism? And the answer to that question is very simple. We've actually done a number of different webinars on this, and I urge you to watch those on our Facebook channel or our YouTube channel. You can get the full data there. But just for a quick, simple analysis here, the Kim Manassi Plant Booster operates on the premise that all living things are based upon energy. And if you think about it, every living thing on this planet is made up of energy and utilizes energy. It doesn't matter if it's an insect or a plant or a human being or a mammal or anything else. If it's alive, it's utilizing energy, right? It's taking in energy through food, or in the case of plants, nutrients and raw materials. It's taking in the energy from the sunlight, and it's creating glucose in terms of a plant. And that plant, of course, serves as an energy source for humans, animals, and everything else. The entire system, the entire light ecosystem of the planet Earth is all based upon the transference of energy through different forms of metabolism. So when you look at any type of organism and you want to improve its metabolism, the first thing you have to understand is, how does that organism generate energy? In the case of humans, if you go to any doctor or any nutritionist, they're going to tell you, you have to eat certain things and not others. You have to eat a certain amount of protein, a certain amount of vegetables, and a certain amount of carbohydrates in the right combinations to become healthy. In terms of a plant, you need a certain amount of nitrogen, a certain amount of carbon, a certain amount of calcium, a certain amount of phosphorus and potassium and all these other things, right? So if you really study the metabolism of the plant and look at all the different facets of that process, you'll see that operates according to a very specific timing mechanism. Because if that timing mechanism goes too far in any one direction, that metabolism is not going to be efficient. And it's not going to be able to produce as much energy and consequently as much fruits and vegetables as it otherwise would. So Fulvio Baumelli, through 20 years of research, discovered the exact frequency pattern of very healthy, very productive, very fruit-bearing plants. And he noticed that had a very specific frequency pattern. Then he looked at stressed plants and noticed, wow, the frequency patterns of those plants' metabolism in a stress state are very different. And if I can take the frequency patterns of a healthy plant and introduce it to an unhealthy plant, or a stressed plant in a stressed environment, that stressed plant should begin to reinvigorate its metabolism and go to its natural optimum function. And of course, over hundreds of experiments, he proved exactly that. We can take an unhealthy stressed plant and turn it into a healthy, productive plant in a matter of a few weeks, sometimes a week, sometimes 2 weeks, sometimes maybe as much as a month in terms of, depending on the type of plant and its natural metabolism. But we've seen fruit trees, for example, respond in a week or two. You'll start to see the canopy, the leaves start to turn greener. The canopy looks healthier. It flowers more during flowering stage. It produces more fruit. And we see this over and over and over again. And all we're doing is increasing the metabolism so that you don't have to add as much nutrients. You don't have to add as much nitrogen to the soil. Adding a lot of nitrogen to the soil is like trying to force feed a human being. You're just trying to shovel food in somebody's mouth to get them to eat. Well, that's not the solution to nutrition. That's not the solution to increasing metabolism. The solution is eat the right things at the right time, and your body's metabolism should recover and respond. And of course, that's what happens in plants too. If you give the plant the nutrients that it needs, the water that it needs, and do it in the right manner, and you are also able to directly stimulate the plant's metabolism, it's going to generate more energy. And that's exactly what our Kemenasi plant booster is doing. It's helping the plant increase its energy level so that you don't have to use as much chemicals and water and other resources to generate a good crop. And because we're enhancing the overall energy level, it's actually increasing the quality, the Brix rating and quality of fruits and vegetables as well. So it's not just a matter of let's throw an extra 80% increase in production and that fruit is just crap and it doesn't last. No, we want 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80% increase in production. That's better quality with better shelf life, better nutritional value for people to eat, and overall much more economically profitable for the farmer. That's been our goal since the beginning of this company 7 years ago. It's still our goal today. And of course, we're achieving that goal on farm after farm after farm. At the end of the day, guys, we want every farm to be using this because we know that this product is going to dramatically help your operation. And we have a policy we've always followed. The policy is no farmer ever loses money with us. If for some reason you're the first farmer in 500, 600, going on 1,000 farms now that ever says, I didn't get my money back, I didn't make more money with Kemenasi, we refund you the difference. We haven't had a single farmer yet ask for their money back because we know that our system works. It works all the time. It's consistent, and it will always produce really, really good results. So really, that's all the questions. That's all the things I have for you. But I want to encourage you. Let's ask some questions. What questions can I answer about the Kemenasi plant booster, about Harvest Harmonics, about this new way to improve plant metabolism so you get better production? How can we answer your questions? So I'm going to open it up here. Feel free to ask me whatever question you want. I'm happy to answer for you. I will answer one question that I saw here, which is, how is it that radio wave signals are able to directly stimulate plant health? That's obviously a very good question. Again, the radio waves are calibrated to very specific frequencies that we've been able to identify correspond to the exact same frequency patterns of a healthy metabolism. So if you have a plant, let's say, that's absorbing nitrogen very efficiently, then we can actually measure that process in the root system and actually mimic that same process in terms of a radio wave signal. And then we take that radio wave signal and introduce it to another plant that's maybe not as healthy, and that plant will start to absorb nitrogen and utilize it much more efficiently just because of the harmonic interaction with that. Another question I get often is, how is this? What is the mechanism of action of this? Now we've mentioned before that our system is based upon biophysics, meaning the laws of physics applied to biological functions. And what we're actually doing here is utilizing the law of physics known as harmonics. If you've ever played a musical instrument, you'll notice that at certain points, if you just pluck a string and hold it, it will actually have a harmonic. In other words, there's a vibration that corresponds to a specific frequency pattern or a specific note in an instrument. And if you have another instrument that also has that same note, like another guitar, for example, the strings on that guitar that you didn't pluck will actually start to vibrate. And that's because the sound wave at that particular frequency has a harmonic in the other instrument, and it will start to vibrate at that same rate of pattern, same rate of motion, that same frequency. You may have seen those stories where an opera singer sings at a high pitch or a certain pitch, and it will shatter a glass because of the sound wave. It's not because that opera singer is singing loudly. It's because the note, that frequency that she's singing at, exactly matches the frequency pattern or the harmonic pattern of the natural structure of the glass, and the glass will start to vibrate. It will actually vibrate itself till it shatters. It will start to vibrate more and more and more until it shatters. It turns out that plant physiology, or every living thing, can also respond via harmonics in terms of its natural biological function. And so you take a plant that's supposed to be, let's say its normal ideal pattern in terms of its metabolism should be vibrating like this, and because of I can't do this with both hands, but let's say it's vibrating like this because of like heat stress or other types of stress factors, but it should be operating like this. Well, it's not going to do very well if it's vibrating at a slower rate, right? What happens when you introduce this pattern to this pattern? Like, well, what happens in human beings is eventually they start to vibrate at the same rate of frequency. And that's the whole law of harmonics. Again, you can look that up if you want the physics lesson behind it. There's plenty of videos on harmonics. We're just adapting that law of physics, that simple principle of physics, to biological functions in plants. And we've got a number of different results. And the other question I'm getting here is, where can I see results of this? The results of this are on our webpage. Again, I'll play it here. I'll bring it up here for you. You can see the results on our webpage. We have most of them up there. If you've watched one of our previous presentations, we have a number of presentations where we show you some of those results. And of course, the best results are the results you get on your farm. So if you really want to see results and you really want to prove it to yourself, give us a call and let's talk about your farm and your situation, and let's prove that we can help you with your situation. Now, I don't claim to work miracles, but this is just simple physics and simple science. And when you apply a very simple principle of physics to the situation of plant health, you get some pretty dramatic and pretty amazing results. So really, that's all we got today, guys. If you are watching this on Facebook or YouTube, you can fill out the form if you'd like a request for a quote. We're happy to work with you. If you have questions, you can call us at 727-324-6750. We'd love to answer all your questions for you. And if you have any other comments or anything, you can always leave them on the Facebook page. We will get to them in a timely manner. So that's it, guys. Have a great day, and look forward to our webinar tomorrow. If you have a lot of these questions, like how does this work? What are the results? Does it work on this crop? Does it work in this region? All those questions are answered in our Future Farming webinar. You can sign up in our Facebook page, or you can sign up on our website and watch the live stream, and we'd be happy to have you there and answer all your questions there as well. That's all we have today, guys. Have a great day. We'll see you again tomorrow.